Lena had always been drawn to the strange, the unexplained, and the places others feared to tread. Her followers loved her for it. Her thrill-seeking live streams took them to the darkest corners of the city where myths whispered through abandoned buildings and forgotten alleys. But tonight, as the storm clouds roiled above, she was stepping into something different. The Lumen Tower loomed in front of her, a monolith of brick and shadow that had been sealed for decades, the stuff of nightmares and whispered legends.
All right, everyone.
Lena said, her voice steady despite the knot tightening in her chest.
This is it. The infamous Lumen Tower. Are you ready?
She panned her camera around, capturing the graffiti-scarred exterior, the smashed windows that looked like jagged teeth grinning back at her. Her chat exploded with messages.
No way, Lena, turn back!
This place is cursed, don't you know?
I dare you to go to the 13th floor.
Lena smirked at that last one. The legend of the 13th floor was what drew her here in the first place. The story went that anyone who stepped foot on that floor would never leave the tower again. People had vanished, families had been left without answers, and search parties had returned empty-handed, their eyes vacant and lips sealed.
Challenge accepted,
She whispered, pushing the heavy doors open with a creak that echoed through the empty night. The lobby was a time capsule of decay, broken marble tiles, a desk overturned and splintered, and shattered chandeliers that had once been luxurious now hung like skeletal remains. Her flashlight illuminated a path forward, but shadows seemed to dance just outside its reach. The chat buzzed relentlessly.
Did you hear that? Something moved.
Lena's heart drummed in her chest as the beam of her flashlight swept over a portrait of the tower's architect, Jeremiah Blackwell. His eyes seemed to follow her, a glimmer of malice hidden beneath the dust and grime. She swallowed hard.
Keep it together, Lena.
She told herself, but her voice sounded hollow even to her. The hum began as she approached the elevator, a low, almost imperceptible vibration in the floor that climbed up her legs and settled in her bones. She pushed the button, and after a few heartbeats, the doors shuddered open, releasing a stale, metallic breath. The chat messages surged.
Turn back, Lena, it's not worth it.
Get out of there now.
But there was no turning back.
They don't let us leave.
She stepped inside and pressed the button marked 13, which shouldn't have been there. There were no elevators in the city with a labelled 13th floor. As the doors closed, the hum turned into a whisper that made her skin crawl. It almost sounded like words, but not in any language she knew. The ride was slow, each floor ticking by with a strange, shuddering lurch that felt like the building itself was resisting. When the elevator doors finally creaked open, Lena's breath caught in her throat. The 13th floor was pristine. Unlike the decay below, this hallway was untouched, clean to the point of absurdity. Polished wooden floors reflected the glow of her flashlight, and portraits of smiling families lined the walls, each smile frozen and unnatural.
Are you guys seeing this?
She whispered into her phone, tilting it so the viewers could share her perspective. The chat had gone quiet, an ominous silence broken only by sporadic comments.
Get out! Something's behind you! Get out!
Lena turned abruptly, her flashlight slicing through the air. The hallway stretched behind her, empty, but she felt it, a presence close enough to make the hair on her arm stand up. She forced a laugh, strained and sharp.
Come on, guys. You're just trying to freak me out.
She said, but her eyes darted nervously. A soft thud came from the end of the hall, where a door slowly creaked open. Lena swallowed hard, her throat dry. She stepped forward, each move deliberate and slow, the polished floor groaning under her weight. The door led to a room bathed in pale moonlight, furnished like a cozy living room from decades past. A floral couch sat in the center, and an old TV crackled with static, casting flickering light across the walls.
Hello?
Lena's voice barely rose above a whisper. Silence met her, thick and suffocating. She turned the camera toward the room, and her chat erupted once more.
There's someone on the couch.
Look at the window!
Lena's flashlight swept across the room, and her breath hitched when she saw it. A figure seated on the couch, facing away from her. It was draped in a grey shawl, its thin shoulders hunched as though it hadn't moved in years. Before she could process what she was seeing, the figure turned, revealing a face shrouded in shadows, but for two pale, unblinking eyes.
They don't let us leave.
It whispered, lips cracking as they moved. Lena stumbled backward, her hand hitting the doorframe with a thud. The room seemed to darken the air, growing colder with each heartbeat. Behind her, the portraits in the hallway now stared with wide, vacant eyes, mouths stretched into silent screams. The hum was back, louder, vibrating through her bones until it was no longer a sound but a feeling. "Leave, Lena, leave!" The chat screamed their desperation, a mirror of her own. She dashed to the elevator, slamming her hand against the button repeatedly. The doors remained shut, as if mocking her. A laugh, dry and hollow, echoed from the room behind her. Lena turned and saw them, figures emerging from the walls, their bodies liquid shadows that slithered like ink. One reached out, its fingers elongating unnaturally, brushing against her cheek before she screamed. The elevator doors flew open, and she stumbled inside, slamming the lobby button as the figures rushed forward. The doors closed just in time, and she collapsed against the wall, panting, her heart a wild drumbeat in her chest. The chat was a blur of panic.
You made it!
We thought you were gone.
But as the elevator descended, Lena's phone glitched. The static returned, louder now, interspersed with whispers that coalesced into a single voice.
You can't leave. Not really.
The lobby doors opened to darkness, deeper and more absolute than before. The camera flickered, and Lena's eyes widened in horror as she realized she hadn't escaped at all. The lobby was gone, replaced with the pristine hallway of the 13th floor, and there at the far end the figures waited, eyes glistening with dark hunger.